Hey guys, Gemma from ASD Rocks. So, talking today about the AAT, NDIS and the AAT. So, AAT stands for the Australian Appeals Tribunal. Now, I want to explain the process that got us there because I think that is just as valid as obviously the experience of what I'm going through now, because it's a massive decision to take the NDIS to court. Now, the AAT is a step basically before court, so it's almost like mediation where, you know, they really, no one wants to go to court. In fact, I've spoken to two advocacy groups who I asked for help from, and both of them sort of ended up saying the same thing to me, which is, you know what, you do not want to go to court against the government. Like, try and get it settled with the AAT, because the NDIS/government have funds beyond your understanding, and law firms that are on retainers and whatnot for all of this. So try and get this sorted. Now, having said that, while I've been trying to get this sorted since we applied. I don't want to take the government to court. I didn't want to take the government or the NDIS to the AAT. But when you give my child $2,000 a year for core funding, I'm sorry. And then when I appeal, you actually lower the capacity building. Like, it's ridiculous. And as much as I don't want to do this, and I don't think anyone wants to do this, they've left me with very little choice. So I will post up the timeline of how I arrived at this situation, because it's not just about, the last meeting we had was unsatisfactory. It's about the fact that since the day that we applied, right? So since late 2020, early 2021, Bo was rejected for the NDI. Deepest apologies. That was Stephen ringing me to give me more information about the new program with the tier 2 and all the rest of it. Okay. So, with Bo having been diagnosed at 2 years old, doctors at 16 months, back then they wouldn't diagnose before the age of 2. Now they do, but 18 years ago they didn't. So, we had to wait until that 2 years old. Then we had Faxia, then we had HCA. So when you had a child with autism, or that was diagnosed with autism, there was a company two companies that were autism specific, Faxia, which then changed into HCA, which was helping children with autism, which lasted right up until they changed it to NDIS and decided to, instead of having autism as, like, you've got Blind Victoria, so I'm speaking Victoria because that's where I'm from, or Vision Australia. How about that? Vision Australia, who look after people with vision, but also they've now put autism, vision, hearing, everything under NDIS. So we're all disabled in different ways. The problem that I believe that comes with that is that while previously the people who were running FAXIA, or the people who were running Helping Children with Autism, were autism, and I won't say experts, but they were autism specific. Okay, so that was their area of knowledge. Now we're dealing with people from the NDIA or NDIS who are picking up the phone, and some of them don't even have kids. Some of them don't have disabilities. Some of them don't have kids with disabilities. Some of them aren't carers. Some of them, it is literally like a job with the local telecommunications place. That is their job. They answer the phone, although you can't call the NDIA. You can only contact your LAC, which is your local area coordinator. So, having been officially diagnosed and recognised by the government twice, right up until Beau was 15, as having been diagnosed with autism, not only by FAXIA and HCA, but also by the Department of Education, who rated him and gave him a score for the help and the aids at school. He was then promptly refused that he did not qualify for NDIS because, I don't know, he wasn't autistic anymore or something like that. He was miraculously cured. So obviously I appealed that. Then I got another letter saying we'd like some more evidence. If you're appealing it, we'd like some evidence to show us that he does. Because I'd already sent in all of the evidence. That's what you have to do when you apply. Anyway, let's, for the first time in my life, cut a long story short. Skip to 2022, when he was finally approved and got possibly the most shocking package, which was, as I said, $2,000 of core support for a year. Now, keeping in mind, by the way, occupational therapy costs $193 per hour through the NDIS. So I thought, so I was very unhappy. Although he had been accepted, which was great, that doesn't mean, just because you're accepted into the NDIS, that just means you're accepted into the process of then deciding, well, let's get more reports about how severe their disability is, so that we know how much to fund them. Now, my support worker tells me that she knows literally herself of a mother who has twins, both with exactly the same disability, identical twins, both with severe disability. One has been funded for $103,000 a year, and the other one gets $25,000 a year, and they are identical. This is the ridiculousness, okay? This is the ludicrousy, which eventually sends you to the AAT. So, I have been through since he got first rejected, I have been through something like 5. So we call, I'm learning these words. RORD is a review of a reviewable decision. Didn't know anything about it. I just thought it was a review. There's a review of a reviewable decision. There's an S100, and there's a change of circumstances or a change of situation, depending on who you're speaking to. Now, the review of a reviewable decision means that there is a decision that is being made. For example, Beau was rejected. I asked for a review on that. It is ridiculous to reject Beau based on the premise that he doesn't qualify for the NDIS when he's clearly got autism and needs the funds for his exercise physiology so he can learn to tie his shoes, all of those sorts of bits and pieces, independent living, blah, blah, blah. So then there's also an S100, which is basically the same as an RORD. An S100 is when you are unhappy. So when Beau was given the funding, so I asked for an RORD, which was a review of the decision that he was rejected. When he did get accepted after that and was given a very pitiful amount, I asked for an S100. Now, they changed these on purpose, guys. It's really important for you to know. They changed these S100, change of circumstances, change of situations, RORD. They changed the language intentionally so that you don't know how to get what you need. You can't possibly be a full-time carer, look after your kid, fill in all this paperwork, apply over and over again, and keep up to date with the language that they continuously change. So you can't put in the right request and you can be rejected because it's not the right request or you filed the wrong paperwork or whatever it happens to be. I will I don't want to make this one too long, so that's how we ended up with me going to the AAT. Now you cannot put in an application with the Australian Appeals Tribunal unless you have been rejected. Okay, so having said that, if I had done that in late 2020, early 2021, it was the first rejection. So you can't really go straight. You have to then submit either an RORD or an S100 because the Australian Appeals Tribunal are like, you know, well, did you appeal it directly to them? They don't, you know, it's not like going to the principal's office and saying, you know, such and such didn't let me into the classroom. You have to deal directly with the NDIS, which of course is impossible because you cannot actually speak to the NDIS. There is no phone number to speak to someone from the NDIS. The only thing you can do is contact either a support worker who also can't contact the NDIS, but she can contact the LAC, which is your local area coordinator, or you can contact the LAC, who then is the person that contacts the NDIS. So here's the kicker. You can kick, scream, fight, cry, and your LAC can say, I completely understand. Write down everything you have said. Be so empathetic and sympathetic. But the truth is, they don't even, I mean, while they're paid by the NDIS or NDIA, they don't even, they're not the decision makers. All they can do is write down what you say and then pass it on to someone else. So they are literally there to stop you from getting through to the NDIA.